What if everything you've ever wanted was already yours? What if the only thing standing between you and your dream life is the way you assume things to be? In this book, you'll discover the powerful secrets of Neville Goddard's law of assumption, and how you can use it to manifest success, love, and happiness faster than you ever imagined. Ready to unlock the reality you deserve? Listen carefully, make notes, and most importantly, apply the practical exercises. Chapter 1: The World Within, the Foundation of the Law of Assumption. Welcome to the fascinating world of Neville Goddard, the man who dared to suggest that everything you believe, think, and assume about yourself is literally creating your reality. Yes, your inner world, filled with assumptions, whether positive, negative, or somewhere in between, is the blueprint for the life you are experiencing right now. But don't worry, because once you understand how this works, you can transform your life into something beyond your wildest dreams. Let's kick this off with a core idea from Goddard himself. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and you will experience it in your world. Pretty wild, right? It's not just about thinking or hoping for a better future. It's about assuming that what you want is already yours, and feeling that deep inside. Like a sculptor shaping a statue from raw marble, you are constantly carving out your reality through your assumptions. Who was Neville Goddard? Neville Goddard wasn't always a mystical guru, teaching the art of assumption. He started off like many of us, struggling to find his footing in a world that seemed far removed from dreams coming true. Born in Barbados in 1905, he moved to New York as a young man with big dreams of becoming a professional dancer. But life wasn't exactly handing him roses. Imagine being in a bustling city like New York, trying to make it as an artist, and facing rejection after rejection. Sound familiar? But here's the turning point. Neville met an Ethiopian mystic named Abdullah, who completely flipped his worldview upside down. Abdullah introduced him to the power of imagination, the concept that if you want something, no matter how outlandish it seems, you must live as if you already have it. Not in some distant future, not after a lot of hard work and struggle, but now. For Neville, this was a game changer. One famous story that Neville often recounted was about his desire to return home to Barbados during the Great Depression. He didn't have the money for a ticket, and had no idea how it could happen. But Abdullah told him to assume he was already in Barbados. Neville practiced this, imagining every night that he was falling asleep in his childhood home. Soon enough, through a series of seemingly miraculous events, he was gifted a first-class ticket to Barbados. And this was just the beginning. From there, Neville became a spiritual teacher, traveling the world and sharing his discoveries about the power of assumption. You are what you assume. So, what exactly is the law of assumption? It's simple. What you assume to be true becomes your reality. This doesn't mean what you want or wish for will magically happen. Sorry, genie lamps don't exist. It's about genuinely believing that what you desire is already part of your life, and acting accordingly. Neville often said that your outer world is a mirror reflecting your inner beliefs. If you assume you're not good enough, guess what? Life will present situations that confirm that assumption. But if you shift your thinking and start assuming you are worthy, talented, and successful, your outer world will begin to reflect that belief back to you. The law of assumption is like planting seeds. Your assumptions are the seeds, and what grows in your life is determined by the quality of those seeds. Here's a fun way to think about it. Imagine you're the director of a movie called Your Life. The script is written based on the assumptions you have about yourself and your world. If you assume you're going to have a terrible day, your script will probably write in a spilled coffee, a missed bus, and a grumpy boss. But if you assume you're going to have an amazing day, you're more likely to find yourself smiling through obstacles, meeting helpful people, and attracting good vibes all around. The plot twists and turns are all up to you. Nikola Tesla's take on energy and assumptions. Here's a cool connection for all you science buffs out there. Did you know that Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor behind alternating current (AC), believed that the universe responds to energy, frequency, and vibration? Tesla famously said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, Think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, how does this tie into the law of assumption? Well, your thoughts and assumptions have their own energy, frequency, and vibration. When you assume something to be true, you're sending out that frequency into the universe, like a radio tower transmitting a signal. And the universe? It responds by bringing experiences that match your frequency. If you're broadcasting, "I'm a success," on your mental frequency, the universe tunes in and brings you opportunities, people, and events that align with that assumption. From struggling dancer to spiritual teacher. Let's go back to Neville's story for a moment. After his early struggles as a dancer in New York, he could have easily assumed that success just wasn't in the cards for him. After all, it's hard to stay positive when you're surrounded by setbacks. But Abdullah taught him that his assumptions were the very thing shaping his life. Once Neville began assuming that he already had what he desired, things started to shift. He went from a man seeking success in the external world to someone who understood that his inner world held all the power. After his transformative experiences with Abdullah, Neville started teaching others how to apply the law of assumption to their own lives. He wrote books, gave lectures, and shared the idea that anyone can change their reality by changing their assumptions. His students began experiencing results. Some found unexpected wealth, others healed from illnesses, and many achieved their personal goals by simply assuming they had already happened. The world within. Here's where things get really fun. The world within you is like a playground. You can assume anything you want, and if you persist in that assumption, it will eventually show up in your outer world. The key is consistency. You have to keep assuming your desired reality, even if nothing seems to be happening at first. Neville often compared this to planting a seed. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust that it will sprout in time, as long as you keep watering it with faith. So, what do you want to create? A thriving career? A loving relationship? Inner peace? Whatever it is, start by assuming it's already yours. Feel the joy, confidence, and satisfaction of living your wish fulfilled. Remember, you don't have to wait for external conditions to change. You can change them from the inside out. Chapter 2. The Creative Power of Imagination. If you've ever daydreamed about winning the lottery, acing that presentation, or having the perfect beach vacation, congratulations. You've already tapped into one of the most powerful tools you possess, your imagination. But according to Neville Goddard, it's much more than just a way to pass the time. Your imagination is the key to transforming your assumptions into reality. It's the engine behind the law of assumption, the magic wand that brings your desires to life. Or, as Neville himself put it, imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. Imagination, the superpower you forgot you had. Think about this for a second. Everything around you, from the chair you're sitting on to the phone you're reading this on, began in someone's imagination. Before these things were real, they existed as ideas, mental pictures in someone's mind. Your imagination is your creative workshop, your personal movie studio, where you get to direct the story of your life. Neville believed that by vividly imagining a scene with all the emotions you'd feel if it were real, you could actually bring that scene into your physical world. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's about creating a detailed mental picture of what you want, feeling as if it's happening now, and then watching as the universe gets to work manifesting it. Essentially, if you can imagine it, you can experience it. This is where most of us go wrong. We tend to imagine the worst, don't we? What if I mess up the presentation? What if I never find the right job? But the same imagination that dreams up all the bad stuff can also create success, love, joy, and fulfillment. You just need to give it the right material to work with. Walt Disney, imagination in action. There's no better example of the power of imagination than Walt Disney. Today, the name Disney is synonymous with magic, dreams coming true, and a certain mouse with oversized ears. But Walt's journey to creating the Disney empire was anything but easy. Let's rewind to the 1920s. Walt Disney was a struggling animator with big dreams, but not much to show for them. In fact, his first animation company went bankrupt. He was down to his last few dollars, living in a tiny apartment, barely able to afford food. Things looked pretty bleak. But here's the kicker: Walt didn't let those setbacks define him. Instead of focusing on the failures, he used his imagination to assume a brighter future. He saw a world where his ideas weren't just possible, they were inevitable. One day, in that tiny, dingy apartment, he started sketching a cheerful little mouse. He imagined this mouse becoming the face of an empire. Walt didn't have the money or resources to make that a reality at the time, but that didn't stop him. He imagined the success first, and then took steps to bring that image to life. Soon after, Mickey Mouse made his debut, and the rest is history. Walt Disney's story is a masterclass in Neville's teachings. Despite repeated failures, Disney assumed success. He used his imagination to create a future that seemed impossible to others. That's the real magic. He believed in his vision so much that the world eventually had no choice but to catch up. Why emotion is the secret sauce. Now, here's the fun part. Your imagination isn't just about visualizing a scene like you're watching a movie. You need to feel it too. According to Neville, imagination alone isn't enough. It's the emotion behind the imagination that makes things happen. You have to get into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Think of it this way: your imagination is like the paint, and your emotions are the brush. Together, they create a masterpiece. If you want to manifest a new job, don't just picture yourself sitting in the office. Feel the excitement, the relief, the pride you would have once that job is yours. Those emotions are what power your imagination and send out the signal to the universe that says, "This is real. This is happening." Neville believed that the subconscious mind responds to feelings, not words. So, while you can talk about wanting something all day long, it's not going to manifest unless you pair that desire with the right emotions. It's like ordering a meal at a restaurant. You can ask the waiter for food, but if you don't tell him what you want, you'll be sitting there hungry all night. Your emotions tell the universe exactly what you're ordering. Fun exercise. Time to play with your imagination. Let's put this into practice. Here's a short imagination exercise that will help you tap into the creative power of your mind and start turning your assumptions into reality. Choose your scene. Think of something you want to manifest in your life. It could be a dream job, a new relationship, or even an epic vacation. The key is to choose something that excites you and feels meaningful. Create the mental picture. Close your eyes and start imagining a specific scene that represents the fulfillment of this desire. Let's say you want to land your dream job. Imagine yourself sitting at your new desk, feeling confident and accomplished. Picture the office space around you, the people you'd work with, and the feeling of excitement in your chest. Add emotion. Now this is where the magic happens. As you imagine this scene, really dive into the emotions you'd feel if it were happening right now. How happy would you feel sitting at that desk? How proud would you be of yourself? Let those feelings flood your body, as if it's all happening in the present moment. Feel the gratitude. To really lock it in, feel grateful that this has already happened. Gratitude is a powerful emotion that tells the universe, "Thank you. More of this, please." Imagine feeling thankful for this new job, this new opportunity, as if it's already part of your life. Let it go. After you've imagined the scene in detail and felt the emotions, let it go. Trust that your imagination has set things into motion, and go about your day. You don't need to obsess over it. Just know that the universe is working behind the scenes to bring it to you. Imagination is everything. At the end of the day, your imagination is your greatest tool for creating the life you want. Neville Goddard understood this better than anyone, and his teachings offer a roadmap for tapping into this limitless power. Whether you're daydreaming about a future goal or simply picturing yourself nailing that big presentation, remember that your imagination isn't just a fantasy, it's a preview of coming attractions. Like Walt Disney, you have the ability to turn dreams into reality, setbacks into comebacks, and fantasies into facts. All you need to do is imagine it, feel it, and believe that it's already yours. With your imagination and emotions working together, there's nothing you can't achieve. Chapter 3: The Science Behind Assumptions, the Mind-Body Connection. When Neville Goddard spoke about how your assumptions shape your reality, it might have sounded mystical or even a bit far-fetched at first. But here's the kicker: modern science is now catching up with what Goddard was teaching decades ago. It turns out that your brain doesn't care whether what you're imagining is real or not. It just reacts to the signals it's receiving, whether those signals are coming from your actual experiences or from your vivid imagination. So when Goddard said, "Live as though you are and you shall be," he wasn't just being poetic. He was laying down the groundwork for what neuroscience is now proving to be true. Your brain can't tell what's real and what's imagined. Here's where it gets interesting. Your brain is like the ultimate special effects department. It doesn't have a built-in filter that separates what's real from what's imagined. To your brain, everything you think, visualize, and feel is real. This is why when you imagine yourself in a stressful situation, your body starts reacting as if it's happening in real life. Your heart races, your palms get sweaty, and your mind spirals into overdrive. And when you imagine something happy, your body responds by releasing those feel-good chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. This mind-body connection is the cornerstone of how the law of assumption works. What you assume in your mind, whether it's fear or success, your body and reality will follow. Neuroscientists have found that when you vividly visualize something, the brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were actually experiencing it. So when you're imagining yourself nailing that big presentation or living your dream life, your brain starts wiring itself to make that happen. Fun fact: athletes and the power of visualization. Here's a fun fact that ties right into Goddard's teachings. Studies have shown that athletes can improve their performance simply by visualizing success. Research has found that athletes who mentally rehearse their actions, like running a race or performing a complex gymnastic routine, activate the same parts of the brain as when they physically do the task. This mental practice helps strengthen neural connections, making it easier for the body to execute the task in real life. Take Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps, for example. Phelps is a strong believer in the power of visualization. Before every race, he mentally swims every stroke, imagines every turn, and envisions himself touching the wall first. He doesn't just think about it, he feels it. By the time he steps onto the starting block, his brain and body have already experienced the victory, which primes him for success. This is exactly what Neville was talking about. By imagining your desires as already fulfilled, you're not just daydreaming, you're rewiring your brain to create the outcome you want. In fact, science now suggests that your imagination is the first step toward manifesting your reality. Jim Carrey and the power of assumption. Let's bring this down from the scientific labs and Olympic pools and talk about someone we all know, Jim Carrey. Before he became one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood, Jim Carrey was struggling to make ends meet. But instead of focusing on what he didn't have, Carrey used his imagination and assumption to create the future he wanted. In the early 1990s, when he was still relatively unknown, Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million. Yup, he actually sat down, grabbed a checkbook, and made it out to himself for acting services rendered. He dated the check for Thanksgiving 1995 and kept it in his wallet as a reminder of where he was headed. Every day, he would imagine himself being paid millions for his work, seeing himself as a successful actor and feeling the emotions of that success. Fast forward a few years, and Jim Carrey was offered the lead role in Dumb and Dumber, which came with a paycheck of, you guessed it, $10 million. It was right before Thanksgiving 1995, just as he had imagined. Carrey's story is a perfect example of the law of assumption in action. He didn't sit around wishing for success, he assumed it was already his. He visualized it, felt it, and carried that belief with him until it manifested in his reality. This is what Neville Goddard meant when he said, "Live as though you are, and you shall be." Carrey's brain didn't know the difference between his imagination and the actual success, so it responded by working toward making his assumptions a reality. The neuroscience of assumption, how it works. So, how does this mind-body connection actually work? Here's a bit of science to break it down. Neurons that fire together wire together. Your brain is constantly creating neural pathways based on your thoughts and experiences. When you assume something to be true, your brain fires the neurons associated with that belief. The more you focus on it, the stronger those neural connections become. Eventually, your brain starts to act as if that assumption is true. Mirror neurons. Your brain has something called mirror neurons, which activate when you observe or imagine an action. So, when you imagine yourself succeeding or achieving your goals, your brain behaves as if it's already happening. This is why visualizing your goals with emotion is so powerful. It primes your brain to turn those imagined scenarios into reality. The reticular activating system, ROS. The ROS is a part of your brain that filters information. It decides what's important and what's not, based on your beliefs and assumptions. If you assume that you're capable of success, your ROS will filter your environment to show you opportunities, ideas, and resources that support that belief. But if you assume failure, your brain will filter in ways that confirm that too. How to use this to your advantage? Alright, enough science talk. Let's get practical. How can you apply this mind-body connection to start manifesting your desires using the law of assumption? First, recognize that your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So start using your imagination deliberately. Picture your goals in vivid detail, whether it's landing your dream job, buying that house, or traveling the world. Don't just think about it, feel it. What emotions would you experience if your dream was already a reality? Let those feelings wash over you as if it's happening right now. Next, practice consistency. Just like athletes who visualize their success daily, you need to keep feeding your brain the same story until it becomes your new normal. The more you assume your desired outcome, the more your brain will create the neural pathways to make it happen. Finally, trust the process. Your brain, through the law of assumption, is already working behind the scenes to bring your assumptions to life. Your job is to stay focused, feel the emotions of your wish fulfilled, and watch as your reality starts to shift. Neville Goddard might not have been a neuroscientist, but his teachings are now backed by modern science. The law of assumption works because your brain is constantly shaping your reality based on the assumptions you hold. Whether it's Jim Carrey writing himself a check for $10 million or an athlete visualizing their Olympic victory, the power of imagination and assumption is undeniable. So next time you catch yourself assuming the worst, remember, your brain is listening. Flip the script, assume the best, and let your imagination create the reality you deserve. After all, your brain is the ultimate manifestation machine. Use it wisely. Chapter 4. Feeling is the secret. Emotions drive assumptions. Alright, let's talk about the real secret sauce that makes the law of assumption work: feeling. If imagination is the fuel for manifesting your desires, then emotions are the rocket boosters. According to Neville Goddard, it's not enough to just think about what you want, you have to feel it. When you assume something to be true and feel the emotions of it being real, you're turning your desires into a living, breathing experience in your inner world. And as we've learned, your inner world is the foundation of everything that shows up in your life. In Neville's words, your state of mind is always expressed in your outer environment. This means your emotions, thoughts, and assumptions don't just stay locked inside your head. They spill out into your life and shape everything around you. Want to know the most powerful part? You get to decide which emotions fuel your assumptions. You can tap into joy, excitement, gratitude, and confidence anytime you want, and let those feelings work their magic to create the life you've been dreaming of. The emotional supercharger. Think about the last time you really wanted something, whether it was a new job, a relationship, or even just a slice of your favorite pizza. Chances are, it wasn't just the thought of that thing that excited you, it was the feeling of having it. You didn't just picture that pizza, you imagined the smell, the taste, the warm cheese melting in your mouth, and you felt instant joy or hunger, And then what happened? You probably ordered the pizza. That's how feelings work. They push you into action, align your energy with your desires, and send a clear signal to the universe: I am ready for this. When it comes to manifesting your desires through the law of assumption, the emotional charge behind your assumptions is what makes things happen. Your feelings are like magnets, pulling your assumptions into reality. Neville often emphasized that simply thinking about your desires wasn't enough. You had to feel as if they were already true. When you feel it, you're living in the state of the wish fulfilled, which is exactly where you need to be for your desires to manifest. The placebo effect, a fun example of feeling and belief. Here's a fun fact that ties everything together. Did you know that the placebo effect is one of the most powerful demonstrations of the mind-body connection? It shows us how deeply our beliefs and emotions affect our physical reality. The placebo effect occurs when a person assumes they're receiving a treatment, like a sugar pill, that will help them recover from an illness. Even though the pill has no real medical properties, people often feel better simply because they believe they will. This is the power of assumption in action. The patient feels confident that they're being healed, and their body responds as if they've taken real medicine. The emotions of trust, hope, and belief literally trigger a physical response. They feel better because they've assumed the result, even though there's nothing real behind the assumption, except for their emotions. Now, imagine what happens when you use this power deliberately to manifest your desires. If a sugar pill can trick the mind into healing the body, just think what you can do when you consciously use your emotions to assume the reality of your wishes. The psychology of emotions and beliefs. So, why are emotions so powerful when it comes to shaping our assumptions? It all comes down to the way our brains are wired. Neuroscientists have found that emotions and thoughts are deeply interconnected. When you experience a strong emotion, like joy, love, or even fear, it leaves an imprint on your brain. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the imprint. That's why you can remember how you felt on your best birthday ever, but you can't quite recall what you had for lunch last Tuesday. Emotions make things stick. They're like glue for your memories and beliefs. When you pair a strong emotion with a thought or assumption, that thought gets glued to your subconscious mind. And since your subconscious mind is responsible for most of the decisions you make, and the things you attract, you can see how important it is to attach positive emotions to your assumptions. The best part? You can consciously choose which emotions to pair with your assumptions. You can train your brain to associate feelings of joy, gratitude, and excitement with your desires, making it easier for those desires to manifest. By feeling the reality of your assumption in the present moment, you're essentially reprogramming your subconscious to believe it's true. Exercise. Feel it into reality. All right, let's get into some action. This is where the fun starts because you're going to experience firsthand how powerful your emotions can be when combined with your assumptions. Ready? Let's go. Pick a future goal. Think of something you'd love to manifest in your life. It could be a new job, a dream vacation, or even meeting the love of your life. Choose something that excites you and feels just out of reach. Create a mental picture. Close your eyes and imagine that this goal has already been achieved. Picture the scene as if it's happening right now. If it's a new job, imagine yourself sitting at your dream desk, feeling successful and confident. If it's a vacation, picture yourself lying on a tropical beach, sipping a cool drink with the sound of waves in the background. Feel the emotion. Now here's the key part. How do you feel in this moment? Are you excited, relieved, or overflowing with joy? Let those emotions flow through you as if your dream is already real. Feel the excitement bubbling up inside you, the pride swelling in your chest, or the deep sense of contentment and happiness. Immerse yourself for 5 minutes. Stay in this emotional state for 5 minutes. It might feel a bit silly at first, but keep going. The more you can feel the emotions, the stronger the impact. Let yourself soak in the joy and excitement of having your wish fulfilled. Let it go. After the 5 minutes are up, take a deep breath and let it go. Trust that the universe is working on your behalf. You've planted the emotional seed, now it's time to let it grow. You see, the key here isn't to force the manifestation into being. Your job is simply to feel as though it's already real, and then let the emotions do the heavy lifting. By consistently pairing your assumptions with strong, positive emotions, you're creating a direct line to your desired reality. Feeling your way to success. Neville Goddard's teachings on the power of emotion can be summed up in one simple statement: feelings create reality. It's not just about thinking it or wishing it into existence, it's about fully embodying the emotional state of your desires as if they've already come true. When you master the art of feeling your assumptions, you unlock the true power of the law of assumption. It's like having a superpower you never knew you had, one that allows you to mold your reality, change your circumstances, and bring your dreams to life. Chapter 5: Assumption in Action: How to Change Your Reality. Alright, buckle up, because now it's time to get practical. You've learned about the power of your imagination and how emotions can supercharge your assumptions. But what about putting the law of assumption into action in your everyday life? That's exactly what we're diving into here. Neville Goddard was all about doing, not just knowing. So in this chapter, we're going to explore how you can start changing your reality, starting today, by applying some simple yet powerful techniques to shift your assumptions and turn your life around. Shifting your inner dialogue from negative to positive. First things first, it's time to tackle that little voice in your head that likes to point out everything that could go wrong. You know the one. It's the voice that tells you you're not good enough, what if you fail, or who are you to think you can achieve this? Don't worry, we all have that voice. But here's the thing, those are just assumptions. And as Neville taught us, your assumptions create your reality. The trick to changing your life is changing that inner dialogue. It's not about silencing the negative voice altogether. Let's face it, that voice likes to stick around, but about replacing it with a new, more empowering dialogue. Start by noticing whenever that voice says something negative. Instead of letting it spiral, interrupt it with a positive assumption. For example, negative assumption: I'm never going to land that promotion. There are way more qualified people. New assumption: I am more than qualified for this promotion. I have the skills and experience to succeed. It's about consciously choosing to assume the best, even when your mind wants to lean into the worst. When you change your inner dialogue, you start shifting your reality from the inside out. Neville's wisdom: your self-concept creates your world. Neville once said, change your conception of yourself and you will automatically change the world in which you live. What does that mean, exactly? It means that the way you see yourself, your self-concept, determines what you experience in the world around you. If you assume that you're always going to struggle, guess what? Your life will mirror that assumption back to you. But if you start seeing yourself as someone who is capable, successful, and deserving of good things, your reality will follow suit. Let's take a lesson from one of the greatest inventors of all time, Thomas Edison. Historical anecdote: Thomas Edison and the light bulb. When we think of Thomas Edison, we tend to think of his major successes, like the light bulb. But what we often forget is that Edison didn't just snap his fingers and invent the light bulb overnight. In fact, he failed thousands of times before he finally got it right. Yet despite these countless failures, Edison never gave up. Why? Because he assumed success long before it actually happened. Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Instead of seeing each failed attempt as proof that his invention wouldn't work, he saw them as stepping stones toward his inevitable success. His unwavering assumption that he would eventually succeed is what drove him to keep going, even when the odds were against him. Edison's story is a perfect example of the law of assumption in action. He didn't let his failures define him. Instead, he maintained a positive assumption that success was just around the corner. And because of that, he created the reality of his success. So, how can you apply this in your own life? Practical steps to shift your reality. Let's get down to business and break this down into practical steps you can use to apply the law of assumption every single day. Identify your current assumptions. The first step is awareness. What assumptions are you currently making about your life, your career, your relationships, or your health? Are they positive or negative? Take a moment to reflect on how you talk to yourself about these areas. If you notice any negative assumptions, don't beat yourself up, just acknowledge them. Flip the script. Once you've identified a negative assumption, flip it on its head. If you're assuming that you're going to fail at something, change that assumption to, I am capable of success, and everything is working in my favor. It might feel weird or even false at first, but stick with it. Your brain needs time to rewire those neural pathways. Use affirmations. Start using affirmations that align with your new assumptions. For example, if you're trying to assume success in your career, you might use an affirmation like, I am thriving in my career, and new opportunities flow to me effortlessly. Repeat these affirmations daily, say them out loud, write them down, or even record yourself saying them and play them back. Feel it. Remember, feeling is the secret. Don't just say your new assumption, feel it. Imagine what it would feel like if your assumption were already true. How would you act, talk, or think? Embody those feelings now, and let that emotional energy fuel your new assumption. Persist. One of Neville's key teachings is persistence. You might not see immediate results, and that's okay. The law of assumption isn't about overnight magic, it's about consistently holding your assumption until it manifests in your reality. Keep assuming the best, even if your current circumstances don't reflect it yet. Fun exercise. Reframe a current problem. Let's put this into practice with a fun exercise. Think of a current problem you're facing, something that's been stressing you out or weighing on your mind. Now, instead of assuming that it's going to get worse or stay the same, let's reframe it. Step 1. Write down the problem in its current state. For example, I'm worried that I won't get the promotion I've been working toward. Step 2. Now assume the best possible outcome and write it as if it's already happened. For example, I've been offered the promotion and I'm so excited to take on this new role. Step 3. Take 5 minutes to really feel the emotions of this new outcome. Imagine what it would feel like if your assumption came true. How relieved, excited, or proud would you feel? Let those emotions flow through you, as if the problem has already been solved. Step 4. Carry this new assumption with you throughout your day. Every time the old worry creeps back in, remind yourself of your new assumption and the feelings that come with it. The law of assumption is a powerful tool for transforming your reality, and it all starts with changing your assumptions. By shifting your inner dialogue, flipping negative thoughts into positive ones, and feeling the emotions of your desired outcome, you can create a new reality for yourself, just like Thomas Edison assumed the success of the light bulb long before it lit up a room. Remember, it's not about wishful thinking, it's about assuming the best and living from that assumption until it becomes real. Whether you're trying to land your dream job, improve your relationships, or overcome a personal challenge, the law of assumption is your roadmap to making it happen. So go ahead, start assuming greatness, and watch as your life begins to shift. Chapter 6. Breaking the Chains of Limiting Beliefs. We've all got them. Those sneaky little voices in our heads that whisper, you can't do that, or that's not for people like you. These voices are the chains of limiting beliefs, and they've been holding you back for way too long. The good news. These limiting beliefs are just negative assumptions you've picked up along the way, and like any assumption, they can be shattered. Yep, just like Neville Goddard said, you've got the power to rewrite the script of your life by identifying and replacing these beliefs with empowering ones. Let's dive in and learn how to break free. What are limiting beliefs, anyway? Limiting beliefs are those deep-seated thoughts that act like invisible walls, keeping you from reaching your full potential. They're based on assumptions, usually negative ones, about what's possible for you. These beliefs often come from past experiences, societal conditioning, or things people told you when you were young. Maybe you've heard things like, "You're not smart enough to do that." "Money doesn't grow on trees." "You have to work hard to be successful." People like us don't get those kinds of opportunities. The problem with these beliefs is that they're self-fulfilling prophecies. More on that in a bit. If you assume you're not good enough, you'll act in ways that confirm that belief, and guess what? You won't feel good enough. But here's the twist. You're choosing to believe these things, and that means you can choose to believe something else instead. Neville's take on limiting beliefs. Neville Goddard had a bold approach to breaking limiting beliefs. He didn't just talk about thinking positive, he urged people to dare to assume that their deepest desires were already true. In his words, dare to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Neville taught that your assumptions create your reality, so if you're assuming failure, unworthiness, or lack, you're just going to attract more of the same. But if you can break those chains by shifting your assumptions, you'll start attracting success, abundance, and happiness. It's all about what you choose to assume about yourself and the world around you. Fun fact: the power of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's where science backs up Neville's teachings: the self-fulfilling prophecy. This is a psychological concept where your beliefs and actions make your assumptions come true. If you believe you're going to fail an exam, you might not study as hard, feel more anxious during the test, and ultimately underperform. But if you assume success, you'll likely study more confidently, approach the exam with a clearer mind, and do better. It's the same with your limiting beliefs. If you assume that you're not cut out for success, you'll act in ways that reinforce that assumption, like avoiding opportunities or not taking risks. But if you dare to assume success, your actions will align with that belief, and soon enough you'll start seeing the results. Colonel Sanders, the man who didn't give up. Let's take a lesson from someone who knew a thing or two about smashing limiting beliefs. Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC. Before he became the face of one of the world's biggest fast food chains, Sanders faced more rejection than most people could bear. In his 60s, after losing his restaurant due to a new highway being built, Sanders decided to pitch his fried chicken recipe to restaurant owners. He had an assumption that his recipe was good enough to succeed, but here's the kicker: he was rejected over 1,000 times. That's right. More than 1,000 rejections. Most people would have given up after a handful of no's, but not Sanders. He assumed that success was inevitable, even though no one seemed to believe in his recipe at first. His unwavering belief in his product, his refusal to let those rejections become limiting beliefs, is what eventually led him to success. Today, KFC is a global empire, and it's all because one man refused to let failure define him. Instead, he assumed that success was his, and he acted from that belief until it became his reality. How to identify and break limiting beliefs. Now that we've seen how limiting beliefs can be smashed, it's time to tackle your own. Breaking free starts with identifying these beliefs, understanding where they come from, and then replacing them with empowering assumptions. Here's how you can start the process. Identify your limiting beliefs. The first step is awareness. What negative thoughts or beliefs keep popping up in your mind? Are you telling yourself that you're not good enough, too old, too young, too busy, or that success is for other people? Write these beliefs down. It's easier to confront them when you see them on paper. Challenge their validity. Ask yourself, is this really true, or is this just a story I've been telling myself? Often, these beliefs come from past failures or things we've been told by others, but that doesn't make them true. Maybe you failed in the past because you were unprepared, or maybe someone else's negative opinion was based on their own limiting beliefs. It's time to challenge these assumptions. Reframe the belief. Now, take each limiting belief and reframe it into a positive, empowering assumption. For example, limiting belief: I'm not smart enough to start my own business. New assumption: I have all the intelligence and resources I need to build a successful business. Feel it. Remember, it's not just about saying the new belief, you have to feel it, just like Neville taught. Assume the feeling of your new belief as if it's already true. How would you feel if you knew for a fact that you were smart enough, good enough, or successful enough? Let those feelings take root. Take action from your new assumption. Once you've assumed your new belief, start taking actions that align with it. If you're assuming success, act like someone who is already successful. Take the risks, go after the opportunities, and stop letting fear hold you back. Your actions will reinforce your new belief, and soon enough, the results will follow. Exercise. Flip your limiting belief. Let's try a fun exercise to help you break those chains. Step 1. Write down one limiting belief that's been holding you back. Be honest with yourself. Maybe it's about your career, relationships, or health. Step 2. Challenge the belief. Ask yourself, is this really true? Look for evidence that contradicts this belief, and trust me, there's always evidence. Step 3. Reframe the belief into something positive and empowering. If your limiting belief was, I'm too old to start a new career, reframe it as, I have years of experience that make me uniquely qualified for a successful new career. Step 4. Spend 5 minutes feeling the truth of your new assumption. Visualize yourself living in that new reality. How do you feel? Confident? Excited? Powerful? Step 5. Take one action today that aligns with your new belief. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be updating your resume, reaching out to a mentor, or applying for a new job. The key is to act from your new assumption, not your old limiting belief. Shatter the chains and step into power. Limiting beliefs are nothing more than negative assumptions you've chosen to accept as truth. But the moment you realize that you have the power to change these assumptions, everything changes. You are not defined by your past, your failures, or what anyone else has told you. Like Colonel Sanders, you can choose to assume success, even if the world seems to say otherwise. When you break the chains of limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering ones, you set yourself free to live the life you truly desire. Remember Neville's words, dare to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You've got this. Now go out there and make your assumptions work for you. Chapter 7. Living in the End, Trusting the Process. We've come to the grand finale, the part where it all comes together like the last glorious note of your favorite song. By now, you know the secret sauce. Assume, feel, and live as if your desires are already a reality. But here's the catch, or should we say, the challenge. You need to trust the process and have faith that everything you've been imagining is on its way. As Neville Goddard beautifully put it, the end of longing is being. That means the moment you stop wanting, you start being. You're not dreaming of success anymore, you are successful. You're not hoping for love, you are love. Living in the end is about embodying the feeling of your desire already fulfilled and knowing that the universe has got your back. Living as if it's already done. Okay, so what does it mean to live in the end? In the simplest terms, it's acting, feeling, and thinking as if the thing you want most has already happened. If you're dreaming of a new job, live as though you're already thriving in that role. If you're manifesting a healthy relationship, assume you already have it. You don't wait for external proof, you become the person who has what they desire right now. You stop chasing and start attracting. Imagine going to a restaurant, ordering your meal, and then acting like you've already eaten it. Sounds weird, right? But in the world of manifestation, this is the equivalent of trusting that your order is being prepared in the kitchen, and it's just a matter of time before it's served to you. You wouldn't panic and think, what if the chef forgets to cook my food? You just know it's coming. Living in the end is exactly like that, except it's with your dreams and desires. The power of faith and patience. Here's where faith and patience come into play. Let's be real, living in the end can be a test of patience. After all, we live in a world of instant gratification, thank you, next day delivery, and waiting for things to manifest can feel like forever. But the magic happens when you let go of the need to control how and when your desires will show up. Faith is like placing your order with the universe and knowing it's on its way, no tracking number required. You don't need to know how things are going to unfold, you just need to trust that they will. The universe has some pretty amazing ways of delivering your desires, often in ways you could never imagine. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, give it sunlight, and trust that beneath the surface something magical is happening. Similarly, when you live in the end, you're planting the seed of your desire in the soil of your subconscious. Your job is to nurture it with positive emotions and faith, and then trust the process. The universe is doing the rest, even if you can't see it yet. Oprah Winfrey, living in the end before the beginning. Let's take a page from Oprah Winfrey's life, a real-world example of living in the end. Oprah is one of the most iconic success stories of our time, but her rise to global fame was anything but smooth. Born into poverty in rural Mississippi, Oprah faced countless challenges, including abuse, discrimination, and early career failures. But one thing Oprah never wavered on was her belief in her vision. From a young age, Oprah imagined herself living a different life. She didn't see herself as a poor, struggling girl. She saw herself as a powerful force for change. Even when she was working at a local news station and being told that she wasn't fit for television, Oprah held on to her vision. She lived as though she already was the woman she wanted to be, even before the world could see it. Oprah didn't wait for external validation. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew she was destined for greatness. And guess what? The universe had no choice but to catch up with her assumption. Today, Oprah is not only a media mogul but also a symbol of empowerment, philanthropy, and resilience. She manifested her success by living in the end, by being the person she wanted to become, even when her reality didn't seem to match. How to live in the end, practical steps. Now let's get practical. How can you start living in the end and trusting the process? Here are some steps to help you put this powerful concept into action. Visualize the end result daily. Spend a few minutes each day visualizing your life as if your desire has already manifested. Imagine every detail, how you would feel, what you would do, and how others would respond to you. The more vividly you can picture it, the better. Embody the feeling of success. Don't just think about your desire, feel it. How would you feel if you already had the love, success, or financial freedom you're aiming for? Let that feeling wash over you and carry it with you throughout the day. You want to embody that energy now, before the physical evidence shows up. Act as if. Start behaving like the person who already has what they want. If you're manifesting a new job, start dressing for the role, preparing for the responsibilities, and networking with people in that field. If it's financial abundance you're after, treat your finances with respect now, even if it feels like you don't have much to work with. Release control of the how. The biggest challenge in living in the end is letting go of the how and when. Your job isn't to figure out how your dream will manifest, it's to trust that it will. The universe has ways of delivering your desires that you can't even begin to imagine. Maintain gratitude. Be grateful for what you have now and for what's coming. Gratitude shifts your energy into a positive state and reinforces the belief that good things are already on their way. Fun exercise. Write a letter to your future self. Here's a fun exercise that will help you live in the end and get into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Step 1. Grab a notebook or open a new document on your computer. Step 2. Write a letter to your future self, describing your life 1 year from now as if all your dreams have already come true. Be specific. What does your daily life look like? How do you feel? What amazing things have happened? For example, "Dear future me, I can't believe how incredible this past year has been. I'm living in my dream house. I've started my own business, and I'm surrounded by the most amazing people." Step 3. Feel the emotions as you write: excitement, gratitude, and pride. Write it with as much detail as possible, and imagine that this future is already real. Step 4. Save your letter somewhere safe and revisit it in a few months. You might be amazed at how much of what you wrote has already started coming true. Living in the end is the key to manifestation. Living in the end is more than just thinking positive. It's about stepping into the version of yourself that already has everything you desire. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you shift your energy and align with the reality you want to create. Remember Oprah's story. She didn't wait for the world to see her success before she believed in it. She lived as if it was already done, and the universe responded in kind. So go ahead, dare to assume, dare to feel, and dare to live as though your dream life is already here. The universe is always working behind the scenes, orchestrating the perfect outcome. Trust the process, and before you know it, your reality will reflect your wildest dreams.